Also, my view, and I've made this very clear, is Solana's my favorite horse in the race of the big ones. This is a new digital economy, and it's an emerging market, and it's the fastest growing market we've ever seen. Versus 5x in Solana, or whatever it'll do next year, 10x.
Yeah, and if you've got now the understanding of why the macro does the same thing and the political cycle, it's like, well, unless something dramatic changes here, rinse and repeat seems to be the same idea.
What could that dramatic event be? What could be a big enough event to really break this cycle and, send us into a black swan depression or global meltdown?
You can't, because you're going to print. So China invades
couldn't
Taiwan.
Hyperinflation be the answer there, though? If you print so much that you actually hyperinflate?
Well, fine, as long as we own the right assets, we'll be fine. There's actually another risk, which is the opposite side of this, which is, let's say we're in 2026 and rates are starting to rise and the Fed go, you know what, we're not going to do this again. We didn't need to do it last time. We screwed up, blah, 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 blah. We're just going to pin yields at 3% or whatever the number is at the time. And so they just print money through the inflationary cycle. That's another side of the equation that I can't square away is, are we going to go through another full rate cycle again or not after they've done this? Depends how this one ends, but that's another kind of distribution people aren't thinking about, is maybe they just don't raise rates. The Bank of England's been doing this since the 1600s, and I think it was the Bank of Holland, Bank of Amsterdam, whatever they're called at the time, have been doing it even longer. That's, I think, the world's oldest central bank. They've never managed to get rid of the business cycle. And people assume that, the Fed can't. We can't, whether our system of money creates it, or whether it was our agricultural cycles before, or weather cycles, it's very difficult. And, I've been talking about this for a long time. Even that Bitcoin Life Raft video that got viewed millions of times was listen, you have been given one gift, is you can buy a fractionalized asset that you can be a billionaire, or you can make $200 a week and you can put 10% of your money in it because it's fractionalized. And it's the first truly global asset that's the same for the person in Brazil as for India, as for Philadelphia. It's one asset. So that's really, really empowering for people. So there is a chance. And also, I've talked a lot about this before, this is the first time the little guy gets a chance to front run the institution. But if they could just hold, maybe dollar cost average, don't use leverage, and put it on your ledger device, your probability of success is extremely high. And then you get to front run what is now the dumb money, which is the institutions. What you want to do is look at things versus Bitcoin and see where things are. Now, ETH has always been very interesting to me because the whole down cycle, it didn't do the down 90% versus Bitcoin. Many of the existing alts do, because we know it's a massive ecosystem. Also, ETH, everything changed for me when it got deflationary in large activity, because actually the biggest activity is in a bull market, so that becomes scarcer in a bull market. That's like, okay, nobody really thought that one through. The other thing is it now has a yield. And if you think of institutions, they like things with yields. So they don't like gold because it doesn't have a yield. ETH does. So ETH has been actually my bigger bet, but I've recently been switching into Solana as my bet.
Can't be mad about that. I don't know when you started recently, but
I started buying Solana in last year, June through till December, to average. And I just had the feeling, and I looked at the chart and I saw the Solana ecosystem, and you throw all the worst news possible and it's the worst Sam coin, and just the
I was just going to say the best argument for Solana is it isn't dead.
That's right. And then I saw people like Tolly, who's Anatoly. He's just classy. Yeah. He's just so good. And I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. I'd met him previously and saw the kinds of people he was involved with, and they were like the heads of all of these amazing businesses. I'm like, obviously can't talk about it publicly, but like, okay, this is amazing. And then I learned about, I don't know if have you gone down this fire dancer rabbit hole yet?
I
haven't really gone
I mean,
public.
only very superficially.
I have not gone really public on it, but I'll write some stuff out of it because I've been writing about it for the Real Vision Pro Macro people and for Global Macro Investor. But I hadn't even heard about it. But I went to mainnet, and there's Colleen from Brevin Howard, who's a good friend and an amazing person. She was on stage, and she was like, and yeah, fire dancer. That's obviously a big bet that we've got that we think is really important. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, Colleen, but she knows a lot of stuff I don't know. So I'm like, okay, fine. And then Anatoly comes up and he's speaking, and he starts talking about fire dancer and oh yeah, you know, we think it can do 600,000 to 1.2 million TPS. And that I'm like, what? And I was thinking at the time, maybe it's some sort of layer 2 blah 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 compromise. So I went back home, I was looking at the charts, which I have been for a long time, of Solana versus ETH and Solana versus Bitcoin. I'm like, this looks like a fucking rocket ship. What is going on here? And so I started looking in and watching the interviews with the Jump trading team who built FireDancer, and realized it was a separate validator for ETH, actually, for Solana. That actually increases the security of the entire chain itself. And that, yes, these speeds were right because it was being built by people who were trying to build light speed for high frequency trading. And, you know, Tolly's going, yeah, this is the real deal. This is what we should have done in the first place. And I'm like, okay, this is huge.
I mean that solves the trilemma. Like, we've never heard of a coin where you can get better security with faster speed, right?
No. And the speed here, I mean, just think of the quantum this is. So we've got Solana at supposedly 65,000 TPS. We've got a layer 2 like Polygon at about the same, but less secure than a layer 1. Okay, fine. This is a layer 1 of Solana that does 20x. So they're saying it's fast enough to run the entire securities industry. Twitter only runs at 24,000 TPS.
Yes.
So you can run all of social media, you can run high frequency trading, you can do anything. So all I think is use case. Use cases explode. And it just becomes very interesting. So that's why I'm very bullish in all of that. Yeah, I think, you know, it's a very, very big deal. Chris Boniski phrased it well, the guys at Placeholder VC, that they were saying, if you think of ETH as the Android economy, so it's a big open source network that you can do lots of different things with, and Solana is more like Apple. It's like a single operating system, but a very good one. And those, you know, your Android phone can speak to your Apple phone. So, you know, it all works in the end. Yeah, and look, I could be wrong too. It may not be the great bet. I may be a complete moron, and you know, I'm more than happy to be the moron. To me, you know, I'm looking at risk rewards here, and I'm just thinking, could this be the ETH of this cycle? That's not taking away from ETH. It's not taking away from Bitcoin. What we're trying to do is, you know, if we're in this ugly economic world, you want to try and make as many chips as possible when you can. That's the game. Now, you could be the Bitcoin maximalist who says, I don't want to keep all the chips, I just want the chips that I want. And that's okay too. There's no problem with those different worlds.
Thank you for joining us today on this insightful journey into the world of crypto and investing. If you found value in today's discussion and want to stay updated on future crypto news and market insights, don't forget to hit subscribe button below and click the notification bell. By subscribing, you'll be part of our growing community, gaining exclusive access to timely analyses and strategies. I look forward to having you with us in the next video.